The following is a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
Let's go, baby!
Are you ready for a break?
Yes.
Are you ready for a break?
Absolutely.
Ready for a break?
Yeah, and so much for that.
It's time for The Break on DallasCowboys.com.
We were on a break!
With Nick Eatman, David Hellman, Ambar Garcia, and Derek Eagleton.
It is Tuesday, October 16th, 2018, Season 14, Episode number 61. Welcome to another edition of The Break Live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. It's Tuesday. It's Big Picture Tuesday. And today we're going to make Dave feel at home because we're going to have a show that I like to call a gumbo show.
Hey.
We're going to take a lot of different stuff and throw it all in the pot and mix it up and come away with something great.
This is gumbo weather.
It's gumbo weather. It really is. For those of you not in the Dallas area, rainy, 46. Pretty nasty outside.
Talking Cowboys.
How's everybody doing today? We good?
Awesome.
We good.
Is this going to be real gumbo? Or is this going to be like Texas gumbo? Because, I mean, Dave will call you out on it if it's not like Louisiana style. Because if somebody tries to do some knockoff Louisiana style food, Dave's not happy.
You're right.
Honestly,
I'm out if that's the case.
I honestly think that Texas gumbo is the same as Louisiana gumbo. And the reason why I say that, the reason why I say that is because there's been such an influx of people from Louisiana into Texas that it just, and maybe it's just the area I'm from, there's a ton of people from Louisiana. So it's just kind of, that culture is now baked into Texas to some degree, in my opinion. But
I bet you there's going to be a disagreeing.
Okay.
3, 2,
Just,
1.
I mean, if, hopefully it's homemade and, somebody who knows what they're doing. Because if it's coming from a restaurant, it probably sucks. So let's figure it out.
is it Dave Hellman's famous gumbo? Like,
Angie
How about
Hellman.
Broadus's gumbo?
Broadus makes a mean gumbo. Angie Hellman is undefeated, though. She's
Really?
the queen.
any chance that maybe she sends us some?
You can
Or she's coming to town anytime soon, wants to make us a pot?
fly home with me. Fly home with me this Christmas.
This is where Kent
Hey.
says talk football.
Yeah, talk football.
If Texas and LSU happen to meet up in some
Sugar
kind of bowl game, then
God,
maybe that
we
would
are
happen.
Then
maybe that would work.
We're covering all the non-important issues right
All right,
now.
let's jump into it. Let's go Cowboys. We've got a lot to talk about today. I was first looking at the Cowboys and where they sit in the NFC East. It's all still jumbled up with one exception. The New York Giants are just plummeting. They are at 1-5, but all the other teams are right there, kind of lumped in together. The Washington Redskins are 3-2, Cowboys 3-3, Philadelphia 3-3. There are kind of two things that you can look at from the Cowboys schedule that you would probably call pretty good. One, they're playing the Sunday for the division lead after a not so great start to the season, in my opinion. But the more important thing is they only have 3 games left this season against teams that have winning records as of now. That would be New Orleans, and that would be the Washington Redskins, who they'll play twice, who are at 3-2, just barely above 500. Every other team is either at 500 or below. And when you looked at the schedule going into the season, you certainly didn't think that about Atlanta. You thought that they would be much better than that. I'm not sure how many of those other teams that you felt like that. You probably thought Philadelphia was going to be much better than they've been so far. But so far, just looking at the schedule, you have to feel pretty good about where the Cowboys sit and the opponents that they have to face. They don't have teams like Green Bay, Minnesota, St. Louis. I'm not saying, keep calling them St. Louis. Los Angeles Rams. They don't have those teams on their schedule. Those are teams that you would say are a lot better right now. Go ahead.
That's everything you just said is perception. Like it's all for like BS, basically. I mean, you're right. You're right. Like I would have thought some of those teams would be better, but even just then, you're like, they don't have the Packers and the Vikings, like the 3-2-1,
aren't great,
the 3-2-1 Packers and the 3-2-1 Vikings, like. The Packers, who needed Aaron Rodgers to be Aaron Rodgers to get past C.J. Beathard last night.
But it usually is Aaron Rodgers. So.
For sure. And I'll say it for the 10 millionth time. As long as you've got him, you've got a chance. But like they don't look impressive by any stretch of the imagination. And really, I don't think anybody does except for the Rams, the Chiefs, maybe the Saints, and I'll throw the Patriots in there just because they're the Patriots.
I think that what happened on Sunday, it just shows that, they're going to be, they have the ability to be in every game. I mean, this is a team that is starting to show that they've got something special, and that's on defense. Now, if the offense can kind of piggyback on that, which I believe is kind of what happened. I mean, the offense was able to take advantage of that strong defensive performance. So I think that you're going to be, you don't have those teams on the schedule. You also don't have some of the really bad teams, I guess. Would that be the Cardinals? I mean, you don't really have that either. So the Giants game is coming up. They got to play the Giants on the road. That'll probably be tough just because it always is.
Because it's the Giants.
Just because of the Giants. But so you don't have those teams that are really, really tough. You don't have those teams that aren't that good. You're just going to be in a fight every game.
Yeah. After the game on Sunday, I was sitting there and I was chatting with Todd Archer just about like the league, the breakdown and the power rankings and who's good. And like I said, there's about 4 teams that right now you feel pretty confident are good and are going to have something to say about the playoffs. And then there's, I don't even know. Okay, yeah, the Cardinals are they look like they're pretty rough.
Raiders aren't very
The
good.
Raiders are terrible. The Raiders are so bad.
49ers' record isn't great, but the 49ers, they're playing good football.
And that's name more than like 4 teams that you're confident saying like
Giants,
they're awful. Yeah, I mean the Giants.
Because Detroit's the same way. Their record's bad, but they're a pretty good team. They're not an easy out.
Well, did you put New England in that first 4?
I just out of reputation alone. But yeah,
they got beat by the Lions pretty good. So you never know.
You look at the power rankings right now in the NFL, and you probably the Rams are number 1, and then the Chiefs and the Pats are right there, and then the Saints have looked really good since they lost in Week 1, and then I mean seriously, tell me, because it's probably the Cincinnati Bengals if we're talking record.
I would guess,
and
how they've played too. They've played really well.
Is anybody really super duper buying the Bengals? To Nick's point, like probably not. Are you super duper? I mean, the Vikings have a ton of talent. They haven't looked like it. The Packers have
I still believe in the Vikings.
Well, and it's you say the Redskins and the who else is the other?
Saints.
Oh, the Saints are the only teams with winning records. That's going to change.
No
Like
doubt.
somebody will go on. The Eagles will figure it out.
thing
Or
is, everybody that's up in
point.
that top 10 has, other than the Rams and the Chiefs, other than those 2 teams, but everyone else has pretty much what you consider to be a bad loss. The Vikings, are they the team that lost bad to the Bills?
Yeah.
But the Patriots lost pretty bad to the Lions. And so, I mean, it happens. I mean, there's another one in there, that has a pretty bad loss. Who else is kind of up there high?
I mean, the Saints,
Patriots?
The Saints lost their opener to the
Yeah.
Buccaneers, who have not looked great since.
Yeah, that was the other
But I
team.
think that's also part of this too. Is when you look at what the NFL traditionally is, it's about now, week 6, 7, 8, when you start to really start seeing teams kind of separate out of this pack. And I believe that some of those teams that we saw lose early in the season, that's just the nature of what today's NFL is, because as much as there is a preseason, there really isn't a preseason. The veterans, I don't think, get as much out of the preseason, so they're really getting into their rhythm in those first several weeks of the season. And I believe some of these teams, like you look at Seattle. Seattle's a much different team than they were and what you thought of them in week 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're playing pretty good football right now. So I think those teams are going to start to kind of, as they typically do around this time of the year. Pittsburgh's another one. They're going to start kind of getting some momentum now. And that's one of the things that actually makes me feel good about where the Cowboys are. To play like they did at that stage of the season in week 6, maybe suggest that they could be one of those teams that finds its footing at this part of the year, because this is when you really got to make hay.
This is and I said this to you yesterday. I'll probably write something on this tomorrow, but this is the game of the year right here. This is the game where you can stay on the track that you're on, or you can jump off and get on a different plane. And this is it, because this is a division game. This is one that shows the team they could win on the road. I mean, I don't know if I'm buying in that they're not a good road team or they're just good at home. Who knows? But this game right here, you can erase all that, get a 2-game lead, pretty much on Washington, win, be 2-0 in the division. It's just everything you want to happen. It starts right here with this game right here. If not, then you might just be on that track all year long.
So I've asked this question before. I'll ask it again. I like to ask it every Tuesday. Based upon what you know now and what you've seen to this point, what's your level of confidence that the Cowboys can be a playoff team, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being most convicted that they're going to be in the playoffs?
Again, it just comes down to what you think for this game. This is one level. Can I answer it at 7:00? On Sunday?
Well, but I'm saying yes. Every week it'll change based upon what happens on that Sunday.
If they lose to Washington, then no, I don't think this team's going to be in the playoffs.
But did that change at all with what they did last week? As you sit here right now, based on what they did last week, are you more confident or less confident that they're going to be in the playoffs?
I'm a little more confident, but it'll all go down. If they don't beat Washington, then I don't think, because then that game won't matter as much to me. It's kind of what we guys said on Monday. That game won't matter as much as we thought it would. This needs to be a trend. This looks good. Stack wins together. If you lose to Washington, and based off everything, now you're 3-4 and 0-4 on the road, I won't have a lot of confidence that this team can turn this thing around.
I would have put myself at like a 2 going into the Jags
to
game.
make the playoffs.
Yeah. And that win was impressive enough that I will bump it up to a 4.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean anything if they can't translate.
Absolutely.
You got to go beat Washington. Like they got to prove that they can stack 2 and even 3 and 4 types of wins together, especially. And, it's no use trying to forecast a month ahead of time, but everything after the Titans looks pretty brutal. I mean, you got at Atlanta, at Philly, back-to-back, I believe.
Yeah, I think it's Philly, then Atlanta. Or is it Atlanta, then Philly?
I don't remember.
One of
it's
the two.
Those two.
And then, but you got a three-game home stretch after that.
Against the Saints, and then a division game, or a division game, and then the Saints, and then another division game, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean,
it's 2 division games. Saints, then 2. Saints in between the 2 division games.
Yeah.
From at Redskins and Titans with a bye in between looks pretty manageable.
No doubt.
And then you got about 4 games in a row that I would guess aren't going to be super easy.
Right.
And so I don't feel super confident at all. And that, like the recency of the other 5 games are way too fresh in my mind. And I was going to say that too, is like, you think the Redskins podcast or, Talking Saints, like you think they're like, ooh, watch out for Dallas, or are they like, oh, that's an inconsistent.
That's a beatable team.
That's an inconsistent team with a shaky offense.
Especially if they're coming to us.
Yeah,
right?
like
trap game though, they might call it.
You're like, watch out for Dallas. They can put it together on you. But
I said this though, and now the Saints, that's a different story because you got their quarterback. But I've always thought, in any level of football, if you've got the best football player on the field, especially one that's going to touch the ball a lot, you always have a chance. And I think that any team, when they're doing their, who dat talk or whatever it's called, their who dey, sorry.
No.
Who dat. Sorry, Dave.
It's okay. Sorry.
Then they're going to be like, you got to stop Zeke because if he gets crazy, then that team can be a factor. And so I think that's why Dallas, I think, has a chance in a lot of these games, in every game, because they have a defense that's flying around the ball, making plays, and they have a running back who has shown the ability to put them on his back and win some games. So.
And I agree with you for what that's worth, and that's what it was so frustrating going into that game last week is like. And I get fan frustrations, but like fans want to pull the plug on this season right now when you have the ingredients to win this division, like with what it's looked like so far. And I know the NFL is a league of parity and has been for a while now, but it looks even more that way right now. Mm-hmm. Like everybody,
look at the records.
Yeah. Like, my whole storyline, I didn't pick the Cowboys to make the playoffs in the preseason. And my thought process was like, look at all these good teams. Like, how are you going to get to enough wins to make the playoffs? Well, maybe what I should have been thinking was the NFC is going to beat the crap out of each other, and maybe you don't need as many wins as you thought because there's not that big of a difference between best in the NFC and middle of the pack. Like, the Rams are literally the only team that looks straight up better than everybody else because, the Saints have a bad loss. They had to, scratch and claw to get past the Cleveland Browns, and they played they beat the Giants by 2 scores, but it wasn't a laugher by any stretch. So, the whole conference looks pretty wide open at about the halfway point.
All right, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, I want to talk about this whole idea of the Cowboys on the road versus at home. Jason Garrett was asked about it yesterday. He laid out 4 different things that he thought could be factors or at least common themes. I'm going to pose the question to you guys: which of those things seems in your mind to be the biggest challenge for the Cowboys? We'll talk about it when we come right back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
If you're like me and you love, if you have a thing, then cutting the cord is scary. But then I found out I could switch to DirecTV Now and still get the live sports I love. No satellite needed, no bulky hardware, no annual contract, just
Get the live sports you love. Try DirecTV Now for $10 a month for 3 months. Visit DirecTVNow.com. DirecTV Now. More for your thing. That's our thing. Use code REALDEAL. Limited time. Price for little package. After 3 months, renews monthly at full price. Currently minimum $40 unless canceled. Prices may change. New subscribers only. Cancel anytime. Content varies by package and may be limited. Restrictions apply.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm and a Cowboys can cooler. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
While a player can look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than specs and features as well. You got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. To experience one for yourself, visit your local Texas John Deere dealer or go to myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. It is segment 2 of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. We're having our gumbo show. We're throwing in a lot of different topics.
You're making me homesick right now.
I'm making myself hungry, actually.
Yeah.
So let's jump back in. Now I want to talk a little bit about the Cowboys and their 0-3 road record. I think a lot's being made of this by the media, particularly and fans to some degree, from the standpoint that I'm not saying it's not legitimate. I'm saying a lot's being made of it, though. There's a lot of talk about the Cowboys being one way at home versus being another way on the road. The question was asked to Jason Garrett yesterday during his press conference, and his response was that there are 4 common themes to those games that they've lost on the road. He said good defenses that they've played. He said noise. He said blocking hasn't been great. And he said that they were inefficient in the throwing, as far as throwing the ball. Of those 4 things, which do you think is the biggest of the challenges for the Cowboys based on those 3 games that they've lost on the road?
I'm going to remove my opinion from it and just go with what Zach Martin just told the Dallas media on his conference call, because Jason Garrett gave the team the day off, so the locker room's not open today. But Zach got on a call with us, and he was like, our communication on the road has been terrible this year. Like, it's been really bad. You know,
is that the noise? Is that what's causing it?
Noise combined with having a new guy at center and new pieces there. And yeah, I think all that comes together. And Joe Looney's been awesome, all things considered, but it obviously has been a trying thing for them for Zach to come out and say, like, yeah, like we're not getting on the same page to the degree that we're used to when we go on the road.
Yeah, you know, I think all 4 of those things, I mean, I'm a big fan of the domino effect. I really do. I think one thing leads to another, to another, to another. And every one of those things, I think you're going up against a good defense, number one. So that's on there. And then when you have a good defense, the blocking's probably not as good. So then that's number 2. Now you have to pass, and you're forced to pass. That's not a strength of the team. And then when you're doing it, and it's harder to pass and get in the shotgun and all that when you have noise involved. So I think one thing leads to another, and it really comes down to that second thing. Good defense, that's fine. We saw one in this week, but you got to be able to block them. And you know, if that's the noise or whatever. But I mean, I think they're all linked together. I don't think it's just. I mean, I think there's 4 aspects of it, but I do think they're all linked in together.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with Dave that communication and noise, I think, is the bigger of the ones. And the reason why I say that, I think you were on to something when you said, think about the different parts that they have in this offense particularly. You're talking about a different center. You're talking about a different left guard. You're talking about different tight ends number. I'm talking a number of different tight ends. You're talking a number of different wide receivers. There are just a ton of different parts here that weren't here last year. So to think that they're going to have the same kind of chemistry to understand without the convenience of being able to say it, going to be able to understand that when I motion you or when I, whatever signals that they use, that everybody's going to always be on the same page, that everybody's going to always see the same things, because that's a really big part of it. Once the ball snapped, are they all seeing the same things to be able to adjust the same way? I don't know that that's necessarily happening because of lack of time. The more they play together, the more they'll have that kind of chemistry. And just right now, maybe they just haven't had it these first few weeks.
Yeah, I'm going to take the all-pro guard at his word. Like, if he says that that's a problem for them, I believe him. And I'm sure it's difficult. But at the same time, like, these guys blast noise over practice every day starting in July. I mean, like, Connor Williams played in the Big 12. It's kind of like during the winning streak with Dak in 2016, every week somebody was like, oh, you got to go into Lambeau Field. And Dak was like, yeah, okay, I've played at Bama and LSU, like, big deal. And so I'm just I'm surprised that if it is this big issue, I'm kind of surprised by that because, it's pro football. I feel like you can kind of overcome that, but it hasn't been the case so far.
Yeah, and the results are all you need to look at. I mean, the results say that something's amiss. Don't know quite what it is. And I don't know that it's – because I don't always buy into just the home versus road thing. But I do think that tangible things like noise and communication are real. Because obviously when you can't have the luxury of being able to speak the things that you need others to know, then you have to adjust. And if you don't know each other well enough that if you can't hear them or you don't quite know that sign that they just gave you, that you just know from past experience – here's what we typically do in this situation, right? Then you're going to find yourself in a bad situation.
And now, the opposite side of that is Jason Witten did this for so long. Like, right tackle and left tackle, it was probably muscle memory that they knew he knew what was going on. And the same thing with Travis and Zach. So you take those things out and replace them with guys who aren't as sure of themselves. Makes some sense.
Zach is making the calls, right? And Frederick did it before. And Joe Looney said last week, he was like, basically he was like, Zach does so much for us in terms of like identifying the defense and all that type of stuff. I mean, this is really getting kind of to another level here. I don't know if it's this serious, but I mean, you're talking about the center of the line making the calls down the road and to the one guy down, two guys down. Now you got the right guard that's doing it. Now he's 3 players removed from Tyron and 2. I mean, I'm just saying.
How far from a tight end? Yeah.
What?
What'd you say?
Huh?
I'm just saying. I don't think that's it at all. I think the fact is that you have an average. You have an average quarterback throwing the ball, and you have average receivers. And I think I'm being nice, and then they're, that's just not the strength of the team. And then when you get into an element where it's hard to run the ball against Carolina and hard to run the ball against Seattle, they did a nice job for the most part against them, and same with Houston. So. I'm not there yet. I'm one game away from being like, okay, this is a problem. I'm just not there yet. I think they could have won the game in Houston, and we're not even talking about this.
But when you say that, though, I think checks have everything to do with that. If you do have, as you say, an average quarterback, and you do have, as you say, average receivers, then being able to check out of that run that was called to be able to go to a pass play that gives these average receivers and average quarterback an opportunity to be able to complete a pass because the coverage dictates they can complete a pass.
You can figure it out. I mean, third base coaches have been talking to batters for the last 100 years, and they don't speak. So
yes,
there's a way to do it.
Sometimes it takes time to figure it out and get 11 guys on the same page. And it sounds like from what Zach's saying is that, and I heard a couple other players saying this in the past couple of weeks as well, that all 11 guys, I think Cole was talking about it, they had these situations in a lot of these road games where you just didn't have all 11 guys on the same page in any given play. This guy may have had 2 bad plays, and this guy has another 2 bad plays. When you start adding it up over the course of the game, it's too many bad plays for them to win. And that's the issue is nobody is necessarily just every play screwing up, but if everybody's not on the same page on every play or as close to every play as possible, then you're kind of in a bad situation.
I don't think it's a coincidence that 2014, you're talking about a very veteran team. I mean, what are the new pieces on that team? Zach at right guard,
right,
and everybody else had been in place for at least a year or two. 16, you got Dak and Zeke, but everybody else around them was on their P's
making
and
the calls for them.
Yeah, no,
right?
absolutely.
I mean,
and like literally everything's different right now. Yeah. Like the whole, the line is shuffled, the receiving core is new. So there's probably something to that.
I think that the biggest play from the game last Sunday, that's going to carry over is Dak's touchdown run. I think that play right there could change the whole kind of scope of this offense and maybe in how teams prepare for him. They have to do that more. I think one thing about Linehan and Garrett that I've seen is when things work well, they overthink themselves the next week. Well, we threw it deep so many times against the Giants, we're not going to throw it deep at all. And we ran Dak a lot in this game against the Giants. We're not going to run him at all. I don't think you can do that. I think they have to. The fact of Dak could run, you want that. You want that linebacker thinking, oh, I don't know, and he's waiting for him. Because then if Zeke gets it half the time, that's one less guy he has to deal with. So I think that they're going to play this game a little bit differently now. I think they've figured it out. I hope so, at least, that Dak's better running the ball, throwing it at times. The Cam Newton approach can work here, and I think that's what they're going to do.
I'm not ready to say I think they figured it out. I hope they have. We'll see.
11 carries, that's not even – they don't even do 4th and 1 sneaks with him. Not really. Have they done it all this year? Maybe once?
With Dak, yeah, they've done it once or twice.
But they don't do it a lot.
How much do you factor in, though? I know Garrett said yesterday, well, some of those are broken plays that Dak scrambles. They aren't necessarily called run plays.
That's fine.
You get into games like that where, and I don't know, I'd have to go back and actually look at all of his runs. Do you guys have a feel for how often in these games, even the games where it seems like he's run more, are those situations where they're called runs or situations? Have they been fair? Because Garrett made the claim they've been fairly consistent when it comes to number of called runs for Dak. And I can't dispute that because I haven't gone back and actually looked at them. It doesn't feel like that to me, but I don't know. I want to get an opinion from you guys.
I haven't gone back and charted it, but I disagree with that. Seattle and Carolina come to mind as if he was running, it was for his life.
Yeah, no called
Not called runs.
And Jason Garrett's favorite thing to do is act like you're stupid for asking a question.
Absolutely.
So that doesn't mean anything to me. No, I don't buy that at all. And even, the spin and the 28-yard run, that was pure improvisation. Yeah. But even still,
that works too, though.
11 runs, if half of them were called, that's still 6 or 7, and that's all I ever wanted. 6 to 8 called runs per game is plenty.
Yeah.
And then you throw in scrambles and stuff, and you'll get where you want to be.
And that's why I said that about that specific play, that touchdown play, because that's the type of play that was obviously called. It was a 2nd and 10. And it's a play that they feel like you're basically piggybacking off the fact of what you can do in there with Zeke, and so I think that they've got to do that more. That's a weapon that they can utilize, and that will help everybody around him. Quit thinking that this quarterback is this franchise player that's got to be in the pocket all the time. That's not his strength. You have to play to his strength, and that's what I believe his strength is.
Let's take the final break. We come back. I want to talk about Tavon Austin. Jerry Jones said something really interesting this morning. He compared his groin injury to the groin injury of another player that used to be here, and he sat out for quite a bit of time. We're going to talk about that when we come back. This is DallasCowboys.com radio.
While a player can look good on paper, it's when he's out on the field that you really find out what he's made of. That's why the Cowboys rely on more than stats and scouting reports when building their team. When picking a tractor, it's why you should rely on more than specs and features as well. You got to take it out and put it to the test. The Cowboys did when they named John Deere their official tractor. To experience one for yourself, visit your local Texas John Deere dealer or go to myjohndeeredealer.com/football.
It's time for Tailgate with the OtterBox boys.
OtterBox, the makers of those crazy protective phone cases?
The one and only. They're also wild about protecting parking lot parties from sad drinks. It's why they made elevation tumblers.
Rumor around the crockpot is they're made from stainless steel with a copper lining to keep temps hot or cold.
True, they even come in 7 different sizes, up to 64 ounce, the growler.
I like how OtterBox drinks. Thinks.
And that's been Tailgating with the OtterBox boys. Check out all the colors and sizes of their elevation tumblers at otterbox.com.
Want to use what the pros use? How about the official men's skincare brand of the Dallas Cowboys, Jack Black? Right now, you can get the Jack Black Playmaker, a curated collection of Cowboys locker room favorites for just $10 with free shipping. The Playmaker includes 4 Jack Black skincare favorites, plus a full-sized Intense Therapy lip balm and a Cowboys can cooler. Go to getjackblack.com/Cowboys and use the code word Cowboys. The Jack Black Playmaker, $10, free shipping.
Star Sports Tours is the only official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, offering exclusive game weekend travel packages with sideline access and photo ops with current players, alumni, and cheerleaders. That's not all, though. You'll get to talk X's and O's with Senior Director of Player Personnel Will McClay, and of course with yours truly, me, Brian Broaddus. You can trust the official fan travel partner of the Dallas Cowboys, and with us, you'll travel like a pro. Visit cowboystravel.com to book your travel package today.
A man's Stetson doesn't just protect him from life's elements. It projects an unstoppable and legendary spirit, just like the men wearing silver and navy on the field every Sunday. Since 1865, Stetson hats are American-made with pride right here in Texas. They are still the official crown of all self-respecting Cowboys. And Stetson is proud to be on the field with America's team. Find Stetson hats in the Pro Shop or at Stetson.com today.
Back to the break.
Welcome back. It is the final segment of the break, live from the SWBC Mortgage Studios at the Star. Nick, take it away.
Hey, the Big 12 Championship's returning to AT&T Stadium on December the 1st. Be there when the top 2 teams in the Big 12 Conference face off. Somebody's hooked into thinking that they are going to be there to become the conference champion of the Big 12. Get your tickets now on SeatGeek.com, the official ticketing provider of AT&T Stadium. That's December the 1st. And you are going?
Last week, I bought 8 tickets. After we beat Oklahoma, I bought 8 tickets.
And guess what he didn't do?
What?
What would you do if you were going to think about your team being in the SEC
I didn't worry about
championship? What would you do? You're like, I'm going to the SEC championship. What would you look at?
I would look at airfare because the game's in Atlanta, but the game's,
I don't have to worry about
game's in Dallas.
Okay, so you're just going to say, I'm going to the game.
That's what he did this week.
Yeah, no, I'm not following. What should he have done?
Well, you also need to probably look at the Cowboys schedule and see how things are going to shape up. And
I wouldn't worry about that.
Well, no.
Games are played on Saturday.
It's the first Saturday of December.
That's what I was thinking, somewhere in that time frame.
Whatever, you didn't know, Derek.
No, I didn't, but I was like, I didn't. You're right. I didn't
even
look
for
it
the
up.
9th.
I thought it was one of those 2 weekends. Either way, I wasn't worried about it.
He's the boss, so
I would have flown to wherever we were going to play that next morning and would have been there in time for the game.
Okay, so you got 8 tickets to Texas is going to be one of the top 2 teams.
I don't know, but it got a lot better this weekend when West Virginia lost, because now I'm assuming they have to play each other. West Virginia, Oklahoma have to play. So one of them is going to have 2 losses in the conference. As long as we don't lose more than one more conference game,
I've never
we're good.
thought about this scenario one time, but so you're saying Texas and Oklahoma could play there.
Again.
Yeah.
And I don't want that to happen.
No, you
I
don't.
feel like our chances of beating Oklahoma twice in 1 year is
Anyways,
take it from someone who
Big 12 championship, AT&T Stadium.
Yeah.
Take it from someone who lost a national title game to their biggest rival. You don't want to do it.
It's not. I don't want to do that.
Quick shout out to my guy Mitch, because a friend of mine, but back during the Auburn weekend when LSU beat Auburn, y'all beat somebody. Y'all beat USC.
Was that weekend?
And like he rooted for LSU, and so I returned the favor and rooted for Texas. And ever since, we've both been having these great seasons.
We are, and that's why I think like when you brought it up earlier today about the possibilities that maybe we could end up in a bowl against each other, I was like, man, that would be so great, because we both have had that kind of season where you don't necessarily think you're going to be in a title like in the playoff.
All this goodwill will
okay,
just
Nick.
fly
Sorry,
out the
buddy.
window, and I'll just start being obnoxious and hating Texas.
It's okay.
Like usual.
It's okay.
Okay.
You can hate us for a week, and then you go back to being
nobody
like,
wants to
you're
hear us talk about college football. Sorry, everybody.
especially Nick.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
Midwestern though. Midwestern, they were ranked, right? Are they not still?
Yeah, don't get me started on that. I told you about
Yeah, you told me about that. That was a little messed up. But anyway, they're a good team. They're a good team. All right, so let's go on. Let's talk about Tavon Austin. We know that he has a groin injury that happened in the 3rd quarter, I think it was. Jerry then this morning on his radio show said, here was his quote, he had something similar to what Mo Claiborne had a few years back when he was with us there in his groin area. He went on to talk about, well, he didn't go on to talk about, but we know, looking at Mo's career, that injury led to him being out for about 9 weeks of the season. So my question for you guys at this point, obviously, if he's going to be out at 9 weeks, you would be pretty I would assume you'd be pretty worried. How much does Tavon Austin fit into this offense and make this offense go for whatever his role is, so that if he's out, it's a problem?
Well, there's nobody that really does what he does from a speed standpoint. They're not using anybody that way right now. That doesn't mean they can't change it. I'm hesitant to compare guys to Mo Claiborne. The 9-week injury, wasn't that at the end of the season too? Wasn't that kind of? Well, I mean, I think this team was out of it, and I don't like comparing anybody to Mo because there was more going on there with him. So it's a significant injury. Yeah, it's not day to day. I get it. He's not going to play this week. He's going to have a bye. He's probably not coming back for a little bit. I get it. But I think there's different circumstances there of why that lasted so long.
So you don't buy that 9 weeks for Mo means 9 weeks for Tavon?
Because I don't think. I think they were out of the. There's more going on with Mo.
I think you're. One of us is misremembering because if I remember, he was off to a great start.
I apologize for not getting all of Mo's injuries.
No, that's totally fair.
They all kind of run together.
If we're talking about
Sean's injury,
if we're talking about what I think we're talking about, Mo was off to a great start. 2016, they went up to Lambeau, and he actually he made a play that led to a takeaway, hurt his groin, and then he was done basically until it was time to start talking playoffs. I think that's right.
Okay.
And that's
maybe so.
That's kind of how Anthony Brown sort of got into the mix and got more playing time. I could be misremembering, but it was a long time. I'm not ready to be worried that he's out for 9 weeks because if that was the timeline they were thinking, then we would already be hearing stuff about IR even at this early date, I think, which doesn't mean it can't happen. I mean, they just delayed an IR decision with 2 guys for forever, so that could happen. My main thing is I'm not worried about it because they're not using him the right way anyway. Like losing Tavon Austin should be a big deal for this offense, but they just haven't been using him that way. He's got far too few touches considering he's averaging 9 yards per carry and had a 64-yard touchdown.
But he was way more involved last week, even when he didn't get the ball. I mean, I saw him going across and them motioning like they were going to give him the ball several times, which to me is just as valuable. To me, that's just as valuable as giving him the ball, and you don't get that if Deontay Thompson's coming across, right?
No, because they don't have that speed, but they can do that with somebody. They don't have a guy that replicates that skill set exactly. But Jason Garrett even said that yesterday. He was like, we've done those types of things with other players before. I think you said it yesterday that Terrence did it a few times.
Not great, but
Michael Gallup and Deontay Thompson seem
can do that.
Like guys who can do that. Which I hope they do because it's something I think this offense needs. But I don't think they did it enough with Tavon that it turned into this amazing thing that they can't live without.
Right.
So,
all right, let's move on. Let's one other thing I wanted to hit real quick. DeMarcus Lawrence has 5.5 sacks right now. At one point earlier in the season, he was leading the league. He had at least half a sack in the first 4 games. Last 2 games, he hasn't had a sack. I think it came out last week that he had a shoulder injury that he's been having for a while, it sounds like, and has not had surgery on it, thinking maybe he might do it in this offseason. I'm not so much concerned about him as the player. I think he's a warrior. He's going to be a great player for the Cowboys regardless. Are you at all concerned about him from the standpoint of what this might mean for the contract? And I mean, he took a gamble on himself, and he's been a team player with this all the way. Like when they franchised him, he jumped right in. Like, all right, cool, I'm signing. I'm happy to take the $17 million. But do you think that this could be a problem for him as he approaches this contract?
I'm actually way more worried about what it means for right now than the future.
Okay.
Because 14.5 sacks last year. Cool, do it again. He did. He was on his way. 5.5 sacks in 4 games. It certainly looked dominant, made a huge difference. Nobody could block him, blah, blah, blah. So, that talent is there. The thing that scares me is he's got a torn labrum, which the fact that that's not just this season-ending disaster, just football players are crazy. Like the pain threshold to play in the NFL is insane. And like we talked to him on Friday, he was like, well, yeah, it's at the back of my shoulder, so it's not a big deal. I was like, your muscle's torn, man. I
can actually push. I just can't pull.
Exactly. No, seriously.
Right.
He's like, and so that's why when it got hit that way, I was in tears on the sideline. But it'll be fine. Okay, DeMarcus.
The tears are temporary.
But the thing that
They
scares
go
me,
away.
he had a shoulder injury and played through it in 16, and they gave him so much credit for it, and it's part of the reason why they love him. But let's be real, like, he was out there. He wasn't the guy we've gotten used to seeing over the last 20 games. He wasn't 15 sack tank. He was
right, and that's kind of my point. Is it does it
average.
hurt him? And we've heard players say this before, and I actually hate it. I love the way this guy does it, and even Tyrone Crawford's the same way. But there have been guys that are like, I ain't putting bad tape out there, especially when I'm up for a contract. So if I'm hurt, I'm not necessarily getting out on the field.
I get it. Doesn't scare. Like, I've seen enough of him being dominant that I trust that he can do it, and he's a warrior, and he's going to play. It doesn't change my opinion about whether or not I would want to re-sign him at all. It does change my opinion about what he can do for me right now, and that's going to severely impact how good your defense is.
I actually think, personally, if I were the one writing the check, which I am not, if I were the one writing the check, that actually makes me want to sign the guy even more. The fact that he can battle through that kind of stuff and still give me good production, still give me a player that has to be reckoned with, that teams are still recognizing as a guy they got to double. Like, that to me is valuable if I'm the one writing the check. So I don't know that it hurts him. I think actually him continuing to play, he's going to get some more sacks. He's not going to get shut out the rest of the year. He'll get more sacks. If he gets to that 8, 9, 10 range, I still think that's great. And if I'm the one writing the check, I'm still willing to sign him as one of the top pass rushers in the league.
Yeah, I think what he did in his first 4 games of the season kind of helps with that. So you're right. If he's got more things going on here and doesn't have the same kind of production, I think he's done enough, coupled with what he did last year, to probably get a big time deal with anybody. But I agree with you. I think doing it here and showing that he's going to continue to fight through this and be a part of it. And what I liked about him all along is that he's kind of been the leader of this whole team. I mean, I didn't realize he had this kind of leadership qualities. We thought Sean Lee would be that guy. It's really been him, and he's kind of taken that whole defensive line and the hot boys and all that and really playing with an attitude. I think he's shown a lot where he is a captain, whether or not he's the captain, that goes out there on the coin flip. He's been a leader for this team.
Real quick, I do want to get at least one question in from a fan. Tanner Carlson hit us on Twitter, said, was last week's game against the Jags more of an anomaly or more so sign of things to come?
I mean, that's the question that all of us have. That's what we're trying to figure out. This team has had some big wins like that, and they've come back and been like, what happened there? Well, why can't they do that again? So that's the biggest question. But that's what every team in the league is trying to figure out too. I mean, you're trying to figure out was that the real Saints against the Bucs, or are they actually going to be better than that? Was that the Vikings that played the Bills, or is it a different team? So everybody's kind of got those games where head scratchers, good or bad. We'll find out this week. That's why I think this week is so important to actually show that, hey, mindset, we're not going to be this back and forth team.
I will say this. I think it was an anomaly, not from the standpoint I don't think the Cowboys can be that good. I think it was an anomaly just because the Cowboys won't face that every other week. There will be different kinds of challenges that they're going to face in other weeks. I talked about it yesterday. I think that what they saw this last weekend was a team that has a certain way that they play defense. They don't trick it up. They don't do a lot of scheme stuff. They are basically, our guys are better than your guys, and that's the way we're going to play it. And the Cowboys found a weakness in that and exploited it. And I think that that's not what they're going to see most weeks. What they're going to see most weeks is teams saying, we're going to throw a little of this at you and a little of that at you. And they're going to have to adjust to that. And especially on the road, when you're talking about communication issues and stuff like that, that's where it becomes extremely vital that they are clicking on all cylinders. So it's an anomaly only because of the opponent, not necessarily because the Cowboys don't have the potential to be good.
I tried to get to the bottom of this yesterday. It's like, okay, great. You knew you could beat Tyler Patman. What are you going to do to get Cole Beasley involved when somebody's like, we're taking him away?
Right.
They don't have an answer to that, which is why, in this hot take society, if you're not just like, oh yeah, they're on the right track, like, then you're a hater. Like, that's not the case at all. They have 5 weeks of bad stuff to go with this one very good week, so I want to see where they go from here.
All right, guys, we appreciate you joining us. We're back tomorrow. We'll start jumping into Cowboys versus Redskins. Dave will give us a scouting report. Till then, for Nick Eatman, Dave Hellman, I'm Derek Eagleton. This has been The Break, live on DallasCowboys.com radio.
This has been a production of DallasCowboys.com and the Dallas Cowboys Football Club.
How about this, Cowboys? Yeah!